The manhwa began with a horrifying disaster known as a dungeon break, which occurred 7 years ago. On that catastrophic day, countless people suffered, including the parents of the main character of this tale, who tragically passed away. In the instant he lost everything, the protagonist made a solemn pledge to himself amidst tears of blood. He vowed to become a hunter, to rip monsters apart, and to kill them. 7 years later, that boy, Sungyoon, finds himself kicked out of the hunter's training center. Sitting in the Catastrophe Memorial Park, he reflects on his expulsion. Recalling his time at the center, he remembers being informed that he was no longer needed there. When Sungyoon inquires about the reason for his dismissal, he is told that those who have awakened are given a few months to complete their training in the exclusive training hall before debuting as hunters. However, Sungyoon had exceeded that period, and now, 7 years later, he faces this situation. The blunt truth is laid bare by the center staff. Sungyoon's talent is deemed beyond trash, and allowing him to remain would tarnish the center's reputation. Despite Sungyoon's persistence in showing up every morning for training, it's deemed unfortunate. Other hunters view him as not just unfortunate, but stupid for not recognizing his limitations. They wonder how his stats haven't increased at all, even after 7 years of training. Meanwhile, in the park nearby, a lady and her daughter are also present. The mother asks her daughter if she remembers how her father died. The little girl recounts how her father perished saving people when a monster attacked. Pleased with her daughter's response, the lady asks what she should do if faced with tough situations in the future. The girl replies that she should remain strong and not give up. This simple yet profound exchange resonates deeply with Sungyoon. Realizing he shouldn't give up, he bows in gratitude to the mother and daughter before setting off running. As he runs, Sungyoon reflects on how he endured the past 7 years and resolves not to stop or give up. Sungyoon makes his way to the house of the training center's director, hoping for another chance at the hunter exam. However, the director angrily tells him to leave. Undeterred, Sungyoon pleads for another opportunity, refusing to give up. The director, in a fit of rage, questions Sungyoon's comprehension, wondering if he's there only because the money he spent was in vain. He offers to refund only half of the membership fees, delivering a decisive blow that sends Sungyoon tumbling into the garbage cans before retreating inside, labeling him a failure. Amidst the rain, Sungyoon receives a notification from the Tower of Trials, praising his iron will. Startled, Sungyoon calls out for help as he feels himself being pulled into a puddle. When the director emerges once more to scold him, he's astonished to find Sungyoon gone. Meanwhile, Sungyoon feels as though he's drowning, struggling to breathe, until suddenly, he plunges from the watery sky into a strange place. A notification informs him that the Tower of Trials has selected all suitable candidates from Earth. Confused by this development, Sungyoon is prompted to choose a difficulty level for the trial, with the rewards being directly proportional to the chosen difficulty. Despite his confusion, Sungyoon's instincts drive him to seize the opportunity, so he opts for the hard difficulty, hoping for satisfactory results. As Sungyoon awaits the trial, he receives a notification that he'll soon enter the first floor of the Tower of Trials, where all challengers' stats and abnormalities will be restored. The trial is announced to begin shortly, prompting Sungyoon to find himself in a desert, provided with a weapon and a sword by the system. The subject of the trial is revealed to be survival, with the reward being the release of a unique trait. Sungyoon realizes that this may be the culmination of his 7 years of hard work, finding it almost insane. Just as he prepares to pick up the sword, a sand golem emerges from under the sand, presenting him with an unexpected challenge. Having chosen the hard difficulty, Sungyoon braces himself for the daunting task ahead, as the system advises him to survive against the sand golem for the allocated amount of time. The remaining time is 9 minutes and 58 seconds, so Sungyoon begins to flee from the golem. He's astonished to learn that the penalty for failing the trial is deafness. Terrified, Sungyoon wonders if he can truly escape the sand golem while running, considering its deceptive speed despite its appearance of slowness due to its size. In this desert biome, sustaining a continuous run for 9 minutes seems impossible with his current stamina. Sungyoon contemplates his options. The system provided him with a sword and instructed him to survive, a task seemingly straightforward. However, Sungyoon realizes the futility of running indefinitely and the possibility of a pathetic demise after years of aspiring to become a hunter. Despite his theoretical knowledge surpassing that of many hunters, Sungyoon faces a dilemma with no apparent solution. Realizing that continually fleeing is not the answer, Sungyoon resolves to find an alternative survival strategy. He understands that monsters like golems cease movement when their core is destroyed, yet accessing their cores is typically challenging. Determined to prevail, Sungyoon devises a plan to make the core more accessible. Quickly ascending a sandhill, Sungyoon lures the pursuing golem, which clumsily falls in its attempt to reach him. Capitalizing on the opportunity, Sungyoon swiftly reaches the golem's core and strikes it with his sword. However, the core proves resilient, only cracking upon impact. Enraged, the golem grabs Sungyoon, squeezing him tightly. Recalling disparaging remarks from those who mocked him as insignificant, Sungyoon channels his fury and hurls his sword with immense force at the golem's core. The impact shatters the core, causing the golem to collapse. Exhausted but victorious, Sungyoon falls to the ground, incredulous at his achievement. The system congratulates Sungyoon on clearing the Tower of Trial's first floor and rewards him with unique traits, 1,000 points, and the fast recovery skill. Additionally, Sungyoon receives 500 bonus points as a reward for his success, a development he finds difficult to comprehend. Sungyoon's weary realization dawned upon him as he reflected on the past 7 years of relentless effort. In return, all he had garnered were disdain and mockery from those around him. However, amidst this despondency, a glimmer of hope flickered into existence. The system notified him of a unique trait bestowed upon him, necromancy. This revelation sparked the possibility of him becoming a hunter, but such aspirations hinged solely on his survival. A sudden manifestation of a black fog, where a sand golem had met its demise, jolted Sungyoon's senses. With the activation of his newfound trait, necromancy, the system presented him with a pivotal choice: to absorb the spirit of the fallen sand golem. Contemplating the nature of this black fog, Sungyoon made his decision. As he opted to absorb the sand golem's spirit, the obsidian mist enveloped him, encircling his form. The absorption commenced as Sungyoon's body became the vessel for the sand golem's spirit. A surge of proficiency coursed through him, escalating by 7%. The spirit's entry through his chest prompted Sungyoon to ponder the prospect of storing such essences within himself. The system clarified that he could absorb up to 5 spirits, thereby permanently augmenting his statistics based on the spirits acquired. Testing the newfound ability, Sungyoon experienced a tangible boost in strength by 3% and health by 2%. The influx of energy revitalized him, marking the first instance in 7 years where his stats saw a permanent enhancement. Necromancy's unique facet allowed him to harness the spirits of the deceased, utilizing them at his discretion. Moreover, the quality and rank of the spirits directly correlated with the magnitude of stat increments, a boon extending indefinitely. Sungyoon's elation soared, envisioning a future where his newfound skill could elevate him to the status of a hunter. Guided by the system, he proceeded to the waiting room. A portal materialized before him, ushering him through its ethereal threshold. As he traversed, an unexpected fall left him reeling, initially fearing the extent of his injuries. To his astonishment, upon rising, he discovered his wounds had vanished without a trace. Contemplating the implications of his healed state, Sungyoon briefly pondered if such restoration would persist beyond the trial's conclusion. However, thoughts of escape and the peculiarities of the tower commandeered his attention. Settling into the solitary accommodation provided by the system, Sungyoon reclined, musing over the enigmatic summons to this mysterious place. Suddenly, a notification from the system flashed before him, informing Sungyoon of 5 commands he could utilize: info, store, community, inventory, and trail. Uttering these command words would trigger their respective functions. Opting to prioritize survival, Sungyoon uttered the word trail, prompting the system to reveal that the time until the second floor trial was 23 hours and 21 minutes. He resigned himself to wait for the next trial, aware that more trials lay ahead. Contemplating his options, Sungyoon invoked the command community, gaining access to a community of hard difficulty. Within this virtual space, he observed bewildered chatter among individuals, both hunters and non-hunters alike, mirroring his own confusion. Shockingly, the administrator intervened, disabling chat functions and announcing crucial information for those who had cleared the tower's tutorial. With no knowledge of how to return to his world, Sungyoon resolved to focus on the forthcoming briefing. The administrator proceeded to elucidate on the utilization of earned points within the Tower of Trials, emphasizing their role as currency. Participants could exchange points within the community, essential for procuring even the most basic necessities within the tower. Sungyoon's astonishment grew as he grasped the imperative of earning points through trials to survive. Determined to adapt to the tower's rules, he acknowledged the necessity of repeated trial entries for point accumulation. Following the announcement, The administrator departed, restoring chat functionality. However, Sungyoon's frustration mounted, lamenting his inability to return and pursue his aspirations of becoming a hunter. Recognizing the limitations of wielding a mere longsword, he invoked the store command, conjuring forth a shield to practice with. Aware that all hunters had forfeited their stats upon entering the tower, Sungyoon reasoned that their prior training would facilitate skill acquisition. Nevertheless, he remained cognizant of the vast disparity in starting positions and understood the necessity of rigorous training to bridge the gap. Hours ebbed away as Sungyoon dedicated himself to relentless training. The restorative effects of the waiting room facilitated his efforts, rendering training a seamless endeavor. Grateful for this advantage, Sungyoon eagerly anticipated the impending trial, fortified by the assurance of his enhanced preparedness. Sungyoon was hungry, so he checked his inventory. He saw he only had 40 points left after buying some things and food. Without the extra rewards, he wouldn't have even thought about getting a shield. Suddenly, Sungyoon got a notification saying there were only 17 minutes left until the next trial. He felt like time went by faster than he expected. Sungyoon wondered if he could get more points somehow, but then he remembered he just had to focus on surviving. The second floor trial began. This time, Sungyoon found himself in a forest. He had to assassinate the orc tribe leader within a certain time limit. Standing on a cliff, Sungyoon saw the orc tribe and was shocked that the system wanted him to go into a place filled with orcs and defeat their leader. He hid in the bushes near the tribe to watch his enemies closely. Usually, in dungeons, if there's a guard among the orc tribe, there's also a hunter. It would be hard to win against just one orc hunter, but the problem was there were many of them. To defeat all the orcs, he needed at least a group of E-rank hunters to make sure he didn't die. Sungyoon started to think about what he should do, but then he decided to retreat for now and come up with a plan later. He was sure there was a way to complete his plan eventually. After a while, Sungyoon gathered enough firewood, and he was happy to know he could store it in his inventory. Sungyoon knew that orcs might seem lazy, but they were actually a diligent race. Hunters usually hunted in the morning and returned when the sun started to set, so he thought he had plenty of time to finish the trial. Sungyoon believed the only way to complete this difficult trial was with fire. He remembered that according to the Hunters Association, the orc guards didn't always stay on guard. They would return to the village to eat or take a break. Seeing this opportunity, Sungyoon closed off the village with fire. Now he didn't have to worry about facing the orc hunters coming back from their hunt. Sungyoon's plan was clear. He needed to take out at least 2 orc workers before they could reach the stream to fetch water for extinguishing the fire. When one of the orc workers approached the stream, Sungyoon swiftly struck, stabbing the orc and activating his unique trait, necromancer. Without hesitation, he absorbed the orc's spirit, boosting his proficiency to 9%. However, his victory was short-lived as a guard materialized behind him, aiming to strike. Reacting swiftly, Sungyoon blocked the attack with a shield and utilized the absorb skill to enhance his stats. With increased strength and agility, Sungyoon easily dispatched the guard and absorbed its spirit. He was surprised to find his stamina also boosted by the guard's spirit, realizing the advantage of such enhancements in combat. Pressing on, Sungyoon confronted the orc clan, facing 3 workers, 1 guard, and an elderly clan head. Assessing the situation, he recognized the importance of dealing with the guard first before tackling the clan head. Dispatching the workers effortlessly, Sungyoon found himself facing the guard, who had abandoned his post to attack directly. In a decisive move, Sungyoon pierced through the guard's chest, only to be met with an unexpected attack from the clan head, wielding a wand ablaze with fire. Reacting swiftly, Sungyoon used a shield to shield himself, triggering an achievement, the one who endures the fire, granting him the fire resistance skill. With the clan head defeated, Sungyoon turned his attention to the tribe leader. Despite the leader's attempt to mount a final assault, Sungyoon swiftly disarmed him, severing both his arms. Seeking refuge in his tent, the tribe leader found no solace as Sungyoon pursued him. Inside, Sungyoon was met with the sight of the leader's terrified children clinging to their father. Memories of his own family's tragic demise flooded Sungyoon's mind as one of the children attempted to attack him with a blade. Reacting instinctively, Sungyoon incapacitated the child, but when the tribe leader made a final desperate charge, Sungyoon ended his life, vowing to sever the lineage of such monsters, even in the afterlife. Sungyoon finished the second floor of the Tower of Trials. When he returned to the restroom, he noticed he couldn't use the shield anymore. He felt grateful to be alive. Sungyoon read comments that said half of the members died, but he was shocked to find out someone mentioned a way to return to Earth using a question voucher. Sungyoon learned about a special command inside the tower that lets him ask any question to the moderator. Every time he reached a new floor, he received a question voucher. The chat room became a place to share information found through these vouchers. Sungyoon discovered there was a temporary return stone for sale that allowed participants to go back to Earth for a few days. He also found out about an upcoming system expansion beyond the 7th floor, where items for permanent return to Earth would be sold. Sungyoon thought about becoming an A-rank hunter if he returned to Earth with his current abilities. Despite barely completing the 2nd floor and feeling unsure about reaching the 8th floor, he decided to stay positive. His stats were improving, heading towards an average of 20. He planned to absorb all 5 spirits he acquired by risking his life, feeling his body grow stronger. Experiencing newfound strength, Sungyoon wondered if he had reached the realm beyond humans. However, he accidentally bumped into the wall of the training room and broke his nose, realizing the drastic gap in his physical abilities due to his unexpected growth. Sungyoon bought a shield made from a big dead tree, crafted by a dead mage. This shield boosted his stamina when it was used. He also obtained a black tree dagger and an assassin cape from the last trial. Determined to become stronger, Sungyoon decided to get used to these items before facing the next trial, aiming to become so powerful that no one could approach him. Sungyoon goes to the 3rd floor of the Tower of Trial. The trial there is a duel, and it's in a cave. After 10 seconds, the Guardian of Darkness will show up. Sungyoon knows it's like a sand golem that can appear from any direction, so he prepares himself. But suddenly, the Guardian of Darkness attacks him from behind. The system tells Sungyoon he has to defeat the doppelganger of the Guardian of Darkness. Sungyoon kicks the doppelganger to make it move back and quickly uses a skill to heal his wound. He realizes if he hadn't upgraded the skill, it could have been worse. Sungyoon is surprised to see the doppelganger copying his moves. He decides he'll figure it out as he fights. He stabs the doppelganger in the back with his dagger. Sungyoon notices the doppelganger can heal itself like him. When it attacks Sungyoon, he realizes it's copying his movements. Sungyoon decides to exploit this weakness in its swordsmanship. He kicks it back and attacks multiple times. But then, the doppelganger gets close and scratches Sungyoon's neck. It keeps pressuring him with attacks. Sungyoon thinks it's strange how quickly the monster got strong. Sungyoon activates his assassin's cape, which makes him faster. He knows he can't waste time because he only has a minute left to finish the fight. He rushes to kill the monster. It tries to stab him, but it only scratches his cheek. Sungyoon manages to stab its shoulder, and it screams in pain. But then, it cuts Sungyoon's arm, and he screams too. Sungyoon knows it's not over yet and tells himself to stay focused. He sees the monster isn't moving, so even though it heals fast, it'll take time. Sungyoon sees this as his chance to kill it, but he realizes he doesn't have his sword. He has only 11 seconds left until his movement speed skill ends. Sungyoon thinks of a crazy plan, but decides it's better to try and fail than not try at all. Sungyoon holds his shield tightly and attacks the monster with all his strength. He uses the shield to cut off the monster's head. After that, he receives a notification that he cleared the 3rd floor of the Tower of Trials. Sungyoon goes back to the waiting room on the 4th floor where all his injuries and debuffs are healed. He punches the wall with force and feels happy to see his arm is perfectly healed. Sungyoon earns the spirit of the doppelganger after completing the trial on the 3rd floor. He feels that compared to other monsters, this spirit is denser. His unique trait, necromancy, reaches 100% proficiency, and its rank improves from F to E. Sungyoon now has an additional effect where he can absorb one of the awakened skills of the spirit when absorbing the spirits of the dead. He is amazed that it's similar to how he obtained fast recovery. Sungyoon realizes that skills are hard to come by, and he never expected to have a broken trait like this. He knows there's luck involved in the trait and thinks he'll need to test how good his luck is since it's the 3rd time now. The waiting room starts to feel like home to him. While checking the community chats, he learns that the next trial is an integrated one. One participant shares that the trial theme is competition among hunters, meaning they might have to kill each other. Sungyoon gets worried about this trial, and the system notifies him that he has been matched with another participant. The trial on the 4th floor begins with the clear condition to defeat the Goblin King within 1 day. The system warns that if the challenger team dies or the remaining time elapses, the penalty will be death. Suddenly, 2 more participants join Sungyoon's team. One of them suggests they start with introductions. The girl introduces herself as Lee Hyeon, specializing in team support, and she's an A-rank hunter. The other guy introduces himself as Lee Sunghoon, specializing in close combat, and he used to be a D-rank hunter. Sungyoon couldn't help but wonder why the other guy was trying to act tough. He thought maybe it was because the guy used to be a D rank hunter. Sungyoon introduced himself, saying he specialized in close combat. However, he admitted he wasn't a hunter before but hoped to become one. Lee warned Sungyoon not to bother him if he was just aspiring to be a hunter. Sungyoon assured him he could play his part, but Lee warned that if he became a problem, he'd be out. Sungyoon remembered he was used to this kind of treatment, but it still caught him off guard. Lee then instructed Sungyoon to stay back and take care of the mobs. Sungyoon didn't particularly like Lee, but he acknowledged Lee's skills and understood that in the Tower of Trials, skills were what mattered most. The Trials theme centered around teamwork, requiring participants to work together to finish before the other team. Suddenly, goblins rushed out of the castle door, attacking them. Lee immediately yelled at Sungyoon to start killing the goblins. However, to Lee's surprise, Sungyoon was already engaged in the fight, taking down the goblins swiftly. Lee's lack of awareness irritated Sungyoon, who couldn't help but feel that Lee wasn't paying attention to what was happening around him. Meanwhile, Hyeon was struggling to complete her spell, which was taking longer than expected. Having already exhausted her supportive spells in previous rounds, she found herself in a tough spot. Sungyoon noticed her predicament and suggested to her that Lee might need their assistance. With that, Sungyoon rushed to help Lee, leaving Hyeon behind. Though Hyeon initially protested, expressing her intention to support Sungyoon, her words were soon cut short as she realized all the goblins around her were already dead. Back in the fray, the goblins managed to overpower Lee, disarming him and leaving him vulnerable. One of the goblins raised its weapon, ready to strike a fatal blow, but Sungyoon intervened just in time, swiftly dispatching the goblin with a precise attack. With Lee momentarily safe, Sungyoon instructed him to stay back, deeming him a hindrance in his current state. Taking matters into his own hands, Sungyoon continued to eliminate the remaining goblins with expert precision. Despite the chaos and danger of the situation, Sungyoon couldn't help but notice a peculiar aspect of his abilities. While his teammates remained unaware, Sungyoon comfortably absorbed the souls of the fallen goblins, a process that led to a permanent increase in his stats. As he absorbed the essence of his fallen foes, the system notified him of an additional reward, the absorption of one of the skills possessed by the Goblin Ranger. Sungyoon gains the skill Ranger's knowledge, which widens his field of view, making it easier to spot approaching enemies. He notices his vision expanding and feels relieved because it's a big advantage for him. At the same time, Lee starts laughing, saying Sungyoon is lucky to face weak goblins. Sungyoon decides to take the lead and give out commands to improve the party's efficiency. When he asks Lee if he has a problem with this, Lee says no. Sungyoon then instructs Lee to protect the hunter, Hyeon. He tells Hyeon to continue what she was doing before and follow from behind. Hyeon agrees and asks for Sungyoon's cooperation until the end. As they resume their search, goblins keep attacking them, but Sungyoon defeats them all along the way. After a while, Hyeon notices that goblins seem to appear periodically, but then she realizes it's strangely quiet. Suddenly, Sungyoon rushes toward a fountain, where they're shocked to find slaughtered goblin bodies everywhere. Lee thinks other challengers must have passed through that area before them, finding it crazy. Sungyoon feels the blood on the bodies is still warm and urges them to hurry to catch up with the others. He fears that if the other team reaches the boss before them, they'll fail the trial and face dire consequences. So, he believes they should hurry. At the same time, the leader of the other team fiercely kills all the goblins. He admits to his teammates that he's starting to feel sick of killing goblins slowly. The leader, Lee Shaun, confirms with his teammates that these are the last goblins and swiftly cuts them down with one slash. Shaun's teammates praise him, but he taunts them, saying he's the one doing all the hunting. He asks Jinho if he's happy being carried by the team, to which Jinho replies that it's not like that. Shaun tells Jinho to open the boss room's door so they can hurry and go back. However, Jinho, feeling angry at Shaun, heads towards the door to open it. Suddenly, the system notifies that all members of the Challengers team will enter the Goblin King's Spiral Tower, and the boss battle will begin. When only one of the two teams remains, the system creates a barrier around the area and informs Shaun's team that no one can leave the current location. Shaun can't understand what's happening. His teammate informs him that the other team has arrived, annoying Shaun. Sungyoon tells his teammates that he'll face the opponents alone. He asks Hyeon to give him only the agility buff and give all the other buffs to Lee Sung-hoon. Hyeon warns him that human hunters might be scarier than monsters, but Sungyoon assures her that he'll let her know if it gets dangerous and leave the backup to her. Hyeon increases Sungyoon's agility, which will last for 10 minutes. Sungyoon feels confident, having killed more than 30 goblins in the trial, believing he's better than the average hunter and can defeat the opponents. Meanwhile, the opponent's team prepares to face Sungyoon running towards them. Xiang commands Jinho to use his shield with all his power to stop Sungyoon. Jinho follows the order, creating a protective shield around them, but Sungyoon breaks through it with a powerful hit of his sword. He immediately kills Jinho and the other members of their team with a single stab, shocking Heian and Lee. Similarly, Sungyoon starts attacking Xiang with strong hits, but he notices that Xiang is strangely blocking his strikes. Sungyoon decides to use more strength and swiftly moves behind Xiang to attack him from the back and finish him off, but Xiang immediately stops the attack with his sword. Sungyoon is taken aback as he realizes that Xiang's eyes can track the path of his sword. Quickly, he throws his shield in front of Xiang to obstruct his view, allowing him to swiftly finish Xiang off with a stab. The system promptly congratulates Sungyoon for accomplishing the special task and rewards him with additional bonuses. In the aftermath, Heian notices Sungyoon's trembling hand and expresses concern, asking if he's all right. Sungyoon assures her that he's fine, but Heian senses that he might be in shock after having to take a life. Despite this, Sungyoon remains determined and informs his teammates that he intends to proceed with facing the boss immediately, seeking their agreement, which they readily provide. Moments later, Sungyoon skillfully eliminates the Goblin King, leaving Lee in awe and even considering him a formidable force. The system acknowledges Sungyoon's success in completing the 4th floor of the Tower of Trials, rewarding him with a substantial increase in all his stats and granting him the skill, Instant Acceleration, as an extra boon. As they prepare to move to the lobby, Lee takes his leave first, prompting Sungyoon to bid farewell to Heian, wishing her a safe return. Heian, feeling a sense of gratitude towards Sungyoon for his crucial role in completing the trial, expresses a tinge of disappointment at not receiving any rewards herself. However, she requests Sungyoon to seek her out in the White Silver Guild upon his return to Earth. Left alone to contemplate, Sungyoon faces a pivotal decision regarding whether to absorb a human soul. Initially hesitant, he had postponed such actions, recognizing the moral dilemma it posed. Yet, now faced with the opportunity for greater strength, Sungyoon resolves to absorb Xiang's soul, albeit with the condition that he won't resort to killing unless absolutely necessary. Driven by his aspiration to become a hunter and fueled by newfound desires, Sungyoon recognizes the Tower of Trials as a pivotal opportunity he must seize. Sungyoon wants to keep moving forward in the Tower of Trials. As he enters the lobby of the 5th floor, the system expands, creating a new grading system that will rank every challenger. The system asks Sungyoon to enter an alias, and when he types Hunter, the system immediately shows him the rank of the participants. Sungyoon is shocked to see his rank is 16th, much higher than he expected. The system notifies that challengers in the top 50 will be called Pioneers and will receive benefits on the 8th floor. Sungyoon wonders if the privilege called Halo is a skill. Next, the system asks Sungyoon to choose the soul he would like to absorb from the recently absorbed souls of Xiang, Jinho, Sungyoon, and the Goblin King. Sungyoon decides to use all the souls, and his stats increase significantly, making him feel like he has surpassed the limits of a human. Additionally, Sungyoon purchases a runestone, which will allow him to return to where he came from for 3 days. He thinks it will be beneficial to test if he can bring his equipment back to Earth with him.